Hot mic.
Hot mic.
Brakken, you're making dreams come true this morning. Thank you.
He looks satisfied.
Sun shining in my face. I got a cup of coffee in my hand. My favorite thing to do is early morning recordings and caffeine with Brakken Kraker. Here we are.
You told me you even delayed your coffee just to make this experience come together.
I did, and then I had to go microwave it because we bullshit for 15 minutes before we hit the record button. It's unbelievable.
We hadn't seen each other like a week. We had to catch up on things.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't. I think you had yourself kind of a crazy weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's vicarious living happening on your end. I'm guessing not, only because it's not the sport you participated in, but you have an athlete on your hands in the household, and you had the big weekend this weekend.
Yeah. That was always a big wonder of mine. What would happen when my kids start competing? Will I live vicariously through them? And what I figured out this weekend is no.
Oh,
I will not. I don't know if it's because I pursued my athletic goals all the way, kind of saw them through. Like I got to find, everyone generally finds their ceiling, right? You get cut in high school and that's done.
yeah.
Or you make it further, you get cut in college or it's done, or you make it through the end of college and you can't go pro and it's done. Like I every sport I did, I hit my ceiling. And running, I don't know if I hit my ceiling, but I saw my ceiling and it wasn't going anywhere else.
Mhm.
Like if I hit it, my life doesn't change kind of thing. So because I pursued it post collegiately, we went all in, moved states, went after it. I think I scratched the itch enough that I don't need, my brain doesn't need that hit, I don't think. And maybe that'll change in a few months or a few years, but Braden had his national or his North American championship competition this weekend, and it did not feel like anything other than parenting / coaching, which is kind of relieving. It was nice to know that I don't have to live through the kid. Some people need that. And I didn't know if I would or not. I don't think you have a say in it.
Yeah, but your identifier at these things are Braden's dad. So
Yep.
there's that, which
Yes,
means if you're the nameless dad, there's some sort of, I guess, attachment put on you there.
Yeah, the role's just different. I get something out of it for sure, but it's not the athletic hit. And that was an interesting find. So yeah, big, stressful, long weekend, but we're back here and his season's done now for the most part, as are a lot of people's season or getting close to being done. And so it's time to start thinking about the off season.
You know, people piss me off. They piss me off when they make excuses for not training. There's explanations and there's excuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had the conversation on this podcast about the two and the differences and all that. And if I were coaching you right now and you started walking me through your weekend, I'm assuming you didn't train.
Well, I can't.
Okay.
I could, but I can't run. Let's just say
let's try not to get it. Well, just because we need to get to our topic. But what I'm saying is the reason it took us 15 minutes before we started recording is you explained the weekend you had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if an athlete came to me and gave me an excuse or explanation as to why they didn't train, and then they walked me through what your weekend was, 4 or 5 days of this, I'd be like, damn it, that sounds like an explanation.
Yeah.
Not an excuse. That's how involved it is for you, is what I'm saying. It's going to bed at midnight, getting up at 5, and working tirelessly in between to get things right. So it's like a different form of focus that you haven't had to do in a while. It's just interesting phase of life you found yourself in.
Yeah. What it showed me is that I think because I'm not training right now currently, or at least running. And so I got to look at it and say, if I were, where would I be fitting it in on a weekend like this? It was kind of nice to do a little like recce of what the weekend would be like. And there is space for it, but it has to be first. That's what it showed me. This type of weekend, it has to be the very first thing I do. Otherwise, nonsense just happens and the day will get away every single time. Every time.
I think that's the answer for 99% of the population that struggles.
Probably. Yeah.
And they say, I'll get it right tomorrow. I'll get up and my alarm will go off at 4:30 because that's my only window. And they stay up too late watching reruns of The Office and hit snooze in the morning. And then there goes the shit and they repeat that cycle for perpetuity and never get where they want. The mornings.
Kirk, I don't know if this is going to derail our topic. This might even turn into the topic. Maybe it's just a comment and we move on. I'm open to either happening, but I had an epiphany this weekend. And it's not like a world changing epiphany for others, but for me, for a long time, I've disliked that whole how bad do you want it thing, because it's like, it doesn't matter if you want it or not. You can't change who you are. Your ceiling's your ceiling, but sometimes it does matter. Like that 4:30 alarm clock, that's how bad do you want it kind of thing. But you can want it really badly and you don't get up. And then all day long, you're like, why didn't I do that? I really want this thing. And then you don't get up and you don't get up. And I'm someone who, as soon as I stopped trying to do running professionally, I lost the ability to do morning workouts consistently. And I just kept thinking, why is it? I want this. And this weekend, it struck me because my hours didn't matter. No matter what I felt like, I was up doing the thing that needed to be done. And then it clicked. There's a difference between wanting it and needing it. And that is entirely the difference. When I was running for our living, it was a need. And whatever the requirements for the workouts were, they got done. And now it's a want. I want to be fit again. I want to race. I want to cross a finish line and have people say you did great. But Braden needed his cart ready. And that was the difference. I had no struggle getting up at any time of the day or night to get work done because it needed to get done. And I think there's someone out there who can benefit from hearing the fact that if you can make that shift from wanting to be fit to needing to be fit, that's the difference between a snooze button and no alarm clock needed.
That was a good speech.
Thank you.
Yeah, people, it's an early work morning. My alarm goes off at 4:30 because I need to go in so I can pay my bills and keep my life, right? So I get up to go to work, but then on a Saturday when my long run comes due and I live in Arizona and it's hot, I can't get out of bed until 8 and then I suffer in the heat and my workout goes to shit. There's a difference there, right? And I think a lot of people, in fact, I think you could fall in this camp at times. And I'm thinking of a half a dozen people or more I know, that people are in love with the idea of this all. And they're not actually in love with the process, which is required to see your potential. The idea is so romantic. I'm going to train and get up early and watch the sunrise on my recovery run and then go and nail my next race. And we can glorify it and it's fun to fantasize about and all of that. But people are in love with the idea and the thought, and it's not a need, exactly as you said. It's a desire, and those are very different things. We want the hot girl we're never going to get, but what are we doing to get her? Not much. We're just sitting on our couch watching her on TV. Like, what is good is that? It's the same version of that, just like you're in love with an idea and not a process. The need is, I think, the 1%ers have the need. Like, it's a need, and it might even be a compulsion or unhealthy, but the need is there. And that's the difference sometimes.
And that concept is, again, we've talked about it before. It's why some of the greatest of all time leave tatters of life around them.
Right.
Because their need is their compulsion and they cannot exist. They can't exist any other way. But there's a guy who works at the drive-through McDonald's window where I get our coffee for Lisa in the morning. And I don't know if he recognizes me ever. We always have that, like, hey, how you doing? And we know each other, but we're not sure. But I know where I know him from, and that is from the alternative high school. When I went in and spoke there, he was one of the students there. And he was there not because it was an alternative learning environment. It was because he couldn't cut it in the regular high school. He was on his way out of high school. So this was a kid who struggled to get up and get to class in the morning. Couldn't try out for a team because he couldn't get up for Saturday practices, couldn't do these things, but he's delivering me my coffee every morning through the drive-through window. And it's like, what changed? The change was he needed to be there or he didn't get his paycheck. He would be fired. He wanted to try out for basketball. He wanted to try out for football. He wanted to make it to class, really wanted to. It gave him anxiety, right? It ate at him that he couldn't do it. But he didn't need to. Like, whatever that axe over his head, that blade over his head was for work, there wasn't that same version for sports or school or life. but he is the same person. He's able to do it in one venue and he's not able to do it in the other. And how do you then take that? You've proven you can do it. He's proven he can get up with an alarm clock and get to work. So how do you then pivot that to creating, manifesting, fabricating a need where you don't really need it?
That's such an interesting conversation. I don't know. Are we going to be spending time on this, or are we going to talk about our topic today?
I mean, we're 10 minutes in. We might as well finish this off and do the next one next week.
We have a topic I'm really excited about chatting about.
Should we pivot to it? Or do we ride through?
Well, our topic today, I don't think takes a lot of time, to be honest. I think it's we could do that topic in 10 minutes and cover it, I think. So I think we wrap this up and then we pivot to that.
Maybe we don't give an answer because there isn't an answer, right? There are strategies, there are processes. We leave this at discover whether your want is truly a want. If this whole time you've been saying, I just really need to get in shape, but the reality is you just want to. You want to, but you don't need it yet. Because as soon as you need oxygen, you breathe. As soon as you need food, you find it. Even if people have to steal to get food, when they need food badly enough, they get it. As soon as you need workouts, you're going to get them. But you just really want them right now.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel a little bit lucky in that regard. And we come from a place of privilege coming up in sport. Mm-hmm. And then now, philosophy that it was in me since the beginning, and I don't know why, but the lead by example thing, right? And we're lucky enough to have our profession and lives intertwined with all of this. So it's easy to be like, just get it done for a guy like me to say to you listening. On the other hand, it's my personal identifier. I am my own product. What I put out into the space is projected and comes back to me. And so it's like this self-fulfilling sort of cycle. And most people don't have that with their fitness, right? Unless they can develop a community within that. I think oftentimes the bigger picture is what is missing for people. Like when it becomes something more than just about yourself, meaning the lone wolf never joins a run group, but they happen to miss 3 runs a week. You get what I'm saying? Like when it becomes bigger than yourself, your weekend with Braden was bigger than yourself because another person in the family's emotional investment was involved. And there was no question when your alarm went off at 5, you were getting up and you were working within 15 minutes of that because you had to, because it was more than just about you. And there's people that it's just about them and they can swing it, but that's not the majority. And I've fallen into a place where I'm lucky to have a bigger picture. I can put my shoes on and go out because of that. And so I think a lot of people got to figure that piece out. When you figure that piece out, if you struggle, I think that is the key to unlock that door for you sometimes.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Hard pivot.
180.
I had the start of a nice little intro for us where I said he's done racing. It's time for his off season. And hey, look at that. Let's talk off season.
No, do it.
I'm just repeating that. We're back to off seasons. Seamless, smooth, jarring, back to seamless and smooth. It's the time of year where the final races are coming up. Chicago Marathon just happened. Toronto Marathon is coming up. We had, what else do we recently have here? The Spartan Sprint Championships just happened. North American Championships happened. Trifecta and World Championships are coming up. The USA OCR Championship just happened. Whether you're road, whether you're trails, whether you are OCR, your season's probably wrapped or wrapping. And some people need a break. Some people are getting right to work on their build. But some people, and this is who this episode is for, just want to stay in shape without a big build or without a big break. I just want to go into an off season where I reduce a little bit of what I do, but I don't want to lose anything. I want to stay in touch with everything, and I want to be ready so that when the race pops up on my calendar or I make a decision about something, I can move into real training seamlessly. And we're going to build out what that looks like today. Not specific, but template style.
I'm going to add on to that because I'm not satisfied with that explanation.
That was a heck of an explanation.
It was a great explanation. But what I think the one thing that if I were listening to you saying, I don't just want to like maintain, like, how can I build? Who cares who cares what my plan? I don't even know what my next races are. I'm going to start thinking after the first of the year, like, what is my spring and summer going to look like? I don't even know yet. I'm waffling, but I still want to build and set myself up to have a better next year than this year. So more like a maintenance build type look versus like you can build fitness with less emotional and time commitment if that's what's required in the off season versus just like a placeholder till I find my carrot. Right. And so
Yeah.
I think, well, at least what I plan to talk about, and probably you, like, I think it's a pretty good fitness building model as well for the off season.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add, maybe like we can also get better instead of just maintain. And I know you agree with that, but that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. Yeah. I should say we're looking to build fitness potentially, but we're not looking for the stress, pressure, or specificity of a fitness build.
Exactly. That's exactly right. There. Boom. Nailed it. Where do you want to start?
Well, I want to talk, as always, the general theory of what you're going to do, and then a little bit of specifics of what you're going to do. So let's each take 1 minute to give our theory of how you build / maintain in the off season without burning out or stressing or overindulging with time. Do you want to start or should I start?
I can start.
1 minute on the clock. Give me your philosophy of what an off-season maintenance / build could and should look like.
I don't even need a minute. I think that an off-season maintenance or build phase really is about touching systems but not abusing them. I think it's about staying in touch with all ends, maybe minimizing the pointy end as far as the volume spent there and maximizing the threshold end. But really, it's about touching systems. It can even be lower volume or lower frequency than when you're mid-season or trying to peak. But if you take a step back, we're touching systems. We're not abusing them. We're not overreaching with anything, but we're still touching them, particularly threshold and then low-grade time on foot. That's how I would look at it.
I love it. That if I had to do a philosophy, it would be touch upon it. And I guess I wouldn't have said abuse, but I like that. Use it, don't abuse it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have another angle?
So then I'm going to go to the other side of that and just round it out. And I think it's skill and stamina. That's what your off season becomes. Skill and stamina. I think it starts with a note-taking session, a reflection session of what, in theory, would I love to be doing on a weekly basis versus what am I actually doing on a weekly basis. Like I tell everyone, you got to be running strides 2 to 3 times a week. I tell all my friends, do some speed sprinkles. I tell them all, you got to be touching some high-end speed every week to stay mechanically sound. But I don't think I've done any of that in like 13 weeks. Boom. That's skill number 1. I have to get more in touch with mechanically sound, fast running. Downhills. I think I let my downhills go. I got to have something downhill every week. It doesn't have to be big, but the skill part of it, not the pounding, not just the skill of it. I let lower body or upper body or whatever, pole lifting or push, whatever that thing is that you left go in the weight room or intended to start, core work, hip stability. I let that go. I'm going to get back to that. And then engine wise, when in doubt, stamina. So it's skill and stamina. If I have been training for 10K all year, I'm going to bump up a race distance or 2. It's going to become half marathon or marathon. If it was 5K, if I'm doing quality work, it's 10K or half marathon. It's stamina-based version of whatever your quality has been and skill-based needs that you've maybe let slide or you need sharper for next year.
That was longer than a minute.
Yeah, because you gave it was aggregate. We had 2 minutes between the two of us.
Oh, okay. So does this come back to? And I just want to touch on this and see your thoughts. I was getting hints of like work your weakness sort of a little bit. Were you implying any of that or no?
Yeah, I think weakness and or things you let slide.
Sure.
We have in theory, I should be doing all of this. And if I'm honest with myself, I've only been doing 2 of the 5. You put those 3 back in and they're probably going to align with weakness. But I think the next step is also probably leading us into what is the big thing you're lacking right now? And how do we start laying the groundwork to not lack that next year?
Right. Without it taking away from a race coming up, because there may not
Yeah.
be one. So you can double down on something like
Mhm.
that. If I had to think for myself right now, just going off with what you had said, if I needed to round things out, I need more vert and I need more overspeed training, which I stopped touching on since my 5K, right? For example. So I can think, man, Kirk, you're really not getting on trails or chasing real hills anymore. You become a road warrior, which is fine. In fact, it'll be my pursuits. But for me, it's easy. It's like I haven't touched anything faster than 5K work since August 25th or whatever the race day was. And I
Mhm.
have great fitness right now, but I don't have that fitness. So could it benefit me to sprinkle just a little, just a touch? Doesn't even need to be the
Yeah.
focus. Could be a finisher, for example. And then I haven't prioritized getting out on real hills and terrain, right? So those would be my two. Although I have great fitness and I believe that, where are the gaps? And so
Yep.
people start thinking about that with themselves. I would ask you the same question, but you're kind of on a hiatus right now. But when you were running
Mhm.
previous to this recent hopeful long term injury, what would have been yours? Just so people can start thinking about themselves.
Two things right off the bat. The first is I think they're the two things that most average runners, average meaning like the most normal, not average times, because that's super subjective. But people let speed and they let long runs go. Those are the first two
Mm.
things people let go: really fast stuff and the long run. Prepping for whatever, just the easy long run doesn't make sense. But I think I get beat up if I went 2 hours on the trail this weekend because I'm not used to that. And
Mm-hmm.
those were the two that were lacking. I knew the long stuff wasn't there because I'd been having such discomfort in my body. But I saw myself run on camera a few times recently, and I did not like my form. I did not. I looked worse at running than I had looked probably January, or how I looked August of last year. I had some video clips of me running then and some video clips of me running now, and I had more hip drop in my stride. I had less pop off the ground. My cadence has dropped. Just the actual skill, which for me is cultivated by running fast, that had
Hmm.
dropped. And so for the first time in a long time, I needed to get back to plyometric work. I've not played basketball since April. I have no more. I rely on that for my plyo work. I've
Hmm.
not done that. So I have no plyometrics in my life. I have not done any true speed work. I hadn't even been doing strides or anything. So I need to get right back to get in the habit of running really well, really quickly, several times per week, even if it's just a few minutes total of work, 2 to 3 times per week. And I need to build up the tolerance to running long.
I've given up the long run as well. My duration's 12 to 14 miles, I would say right now, which is long enough, but
But you're too
um,
fast on the roads right now for that to be a long run.
right. It can be an hour and 15 minutes, hour
Yeah.
20, which isn't very long. Now, but what I'm getting at is in the off season, I don't know, like depending on what you have coming up, like I do think if the long run is tempered back, but maybe, which is what my approach is, you start sprinkling in stuff that matters in there. You can kind of get a twofer and you can draw out the duration of your long runs once you're, let's say, 3 months out from a big race that requires duration. But I agree with you about the long run. That's the first thing to go. It's one of mine too. So
Mhm.
you kind of called pot meet kettle, but this is what I want to do. Okay. So wait, you said we were going to give our overview and then what were we going to do?
Like I would present what a week could look like, and you will present what just a repeating week.
Okay.
This is what you could do indefinitely until you're ready to move into a specific build.
Okay. Well, I can do this in a minute as well. Just a quick
Oh,
swipe at it.
okay.
A swipe like a big picture thing, and then we can zoom in if that's cool.
Yeah.
So maybe unlike what you just described, and I think this is how you have to know yourself as an athlete. You touched on like I need to get mechanically efficient work in a couple times a week to clean my stride up. I don't feel like maybe it's a personal bias, but I don't feel like I need that as much. So I come at it from this lens, I'll just say.
Mhm.
Um, I believe if you look at like a Monday through Sunday schedule or whatever you run, you know, basically we look at recovery running, all but 2 days of the week, really. Recovery type effort running, maybe a gray zone run in there, but whatever volume that means. And let's say you have a quality, we still keep a quality day in there. We still keep a pseudo long run day in there. So those are the pillars of your week, even in the off season, in my opinion. Let's say you're a Tuesday quality, early week quality. This is where I think that can go back and forth between your quality and your long run. You basically look at your week and you say, I'm going to get some sort of threshold work done early in the week. And then within my long run, I am going to, for example, one I love is like 30, 60, 90 repeats in the middle of your long run. You're going to turn over quick. You give you lots of rest in between, meaning 30 seconds on, 2 minutes off, or 3 minutes, right? Where you actually can access it and recover in between. So we're mechanically getting efficient. So one threshold workout early in the week. And then I like to add my speed into my long run, which is probably contradictory. You could reverse them, add threshold into your long run this time of year. But that's it. It's that simple. Recovery running. Where am I getting my threshold work in? And then adding in some sort of shorter efficiency work within a run. At this time of the year, I don't take structured rest with short intervals. I like to weave them in and out of something else. But that's just me. So maybe that was longer than a minute, and it's not super clear yet. We can get further into it, but that's my first take. What about you?
I am going to go back to the theoretical schedule of just sustainability for me, which is something Tuesday
Mhm.
of note interval wise. It's going to probably be threshold work in the off season, but it's going to be not randomized because I'm going to shoot for 30 to 40 minutes of work, but how that work gets done doesn't matter to me. Could be 10 to 12 by 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. It could be 40 by 400 at half marathon pace with 30-second jog. It could be a 1, 2, 3 fartlek. 1 minute on, 1 off, 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 3 off for 3 rounds to 4 rounds. It could be 4 miles out, steady, 4-mile cut down back. I won't care. I won't have a specific progression. I'll be having a queue of workouts that all accomplish the same goal, which is 30 to 40 minutes of threshold work. And I'm choosing the one that excites me the night before. And when
Love
I
it.
get up the next morning, if it's still that one, I do it. And if it's not, I pivot to the next man up. So that's what I would be doing every Tuesday.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. I like
Within a few days of Tuesday coming up, I'm deciding like this sounds good. I start thinking about it.
Yeah.
What do I need or want? And it's always 30 to 45 minutes of work. You got it.
Yep.
Yep. I love it.
And then Saturdays, I'm just giving specific days so people can see how we're laying out the week. I would be alternating easy long runs on the trails and moderate long runs on hills. And the easy long runs are going to be trying to move up to long, like getting up near the 2-hour range, taking my time to get there, going past it if I'm going really easy. And the moderate are going to be that 90 to 2-hour duration, just running hilly loops, searching for vert, but not trying to crush anything. Running clean and nice on the downhills, but not work. I might power hike every single uphill. Doesn't matter. Just spending time doing the hill thing again. And then I would have my midweek long run. I'd be running flat. I'd be trying to start at about 70 minutes and move it up to the point where I could run 80 to 90 minutes flat, easy to moderate every week if I wanted to. But that run would either start or end with some light speed reps. 4 by 200, 6 by 200, 10 by 100, something that's minimal, but just forcing me to run. And then every single easy run throughout the week would be finishing up with 3 to 6 strides, accelerations, building from easy to hard, walk back, not trying to take any damage, but just maximizing the time spent running clean and crisp. And that would be my weeks, probably A and B week, that I would just repeat indefinitely.
Yeah. And you are touching on that, just quit little bit of turnover a little more frequently, but not damaging type.
Never damaging.
I think if you're going to distill it down, your first quality. So first rule 1, quality doesn't just go out the window. You don't just go out, put your shoes on and run every day without a plan, right? There's a purpose every time you put on your shoes, even in the off season. And you don't have to be super emotionally invested in what that is. It just, there still needs to be structure. First of all, I think that's one of the takeaways people forget about. like for 2 or 3 months in the winter, I'm just going to go out the door, see how I feel, what I want to do. I'm going to go as far or short as I feel like. And we tend to leave things on the table, fitness on the table that way. Would you agree?
Yep.
So a plan, I think step one, like we're still having a plan here. Step two, I love your 30 to 40 minutes of quality on a Tuesday. What does that do? That limits us from dipping into VO2 max work and peaking type phase stuff too early, right? The sheer volume of that, you just can't. I mean, I guess you could run 40 by 400 meters with 2 minutes rest, but at that point, what are we accomplishing? It would be a silly curation of a workout. So what I'm saying
I would say
is
40, it'd be 20 to 30.
Right. So point being is it's sort of shoving you that sort of duration, come up with a workout in which I'm going to be working hard for 30 to 40 minutes is going to be a governor in itself to the intensity that you can sustain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a 40-minute straight up tempo run where you pick a pace and try to nail it, or a heart rate zone, or it's 10 by 1,000 or whatever it would be for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And then the other thing for me, which we both aligned on, is touching some sort of quality again. In that cycle, like I like it as simple as you don't even need to have speed sprinkles in your long run, the progression long run, or the Kenyan long run, as you used to call it. Like just go out the door. You know, you're going to ratchet down until you get uncomfortable and do that on your long runs. And then you have 2 really good hits every single week, whether you have a 1, 2, 3 fartlek mixed in your long run, or it's a progression long run. How much of that time in a progression long run are you spending in threshold anyways? The whole back half, probably. So point being is you really don't have to overthink it. You could literally have a cache of 15 workouts that you've done in the past that you like and look at them the night before and be like, that sounds exciting to me. I'm going to hit that one. But I think the key is the total volume in which you're spending quality is higher at this time of year as a fitness building governor to the overspeed work or like the peaking type workouts, which we want to hold back from right now. I don't know if that made any sense or not, but
yeah. I think you have to have a ultimate goal for the week. Like my ultimate goal to start with would be I must spend however many days per week running quickly and well. And I'm going to run whatever volume allows me to do that in between. And then I'm going to progress it as I can. The opposite is I need to build volume. I'm going to run 40, 60, 80 miles per week. And I'm going to do whatever version of threshold work on Tuesday and Saturday allow me to run that. And then I'm going to build up my tolerance to doing more quality work throughout the week. But you don't necessarily have to script everything out, but you have to have your one overriding goal, which is this is a volume build for me. And so my quality work cannot get in the way of that, but it must still be present. Or this is a skill work block for me. My volume cannot get in the way of it, but I do need to build up my tolerance to it as I go.
That makes sense. So you're leaning into like, this is a time to build volume. Like I would rather draw out the length of my long runs and forget about the quality of them necessarily. Like durability feels important to you this time of year, just like acclimation to time on feet.
Yeah. And if that's it, then great. You still have to do something quality Tuesday and you have to sprinkle in something, maybe more strides Thursday, but the Tuesday and whatever can't get in the way of still getting out for your 10 the next morning. So what quality threshold-ish work can I do Tuesday that still allows me to hit 20 miles over the next 2 days? That's where you start. And you err on the side of hitting the 20 miles the next 2 days. And then over time, as your tolerance rises, that Tuesday workout can get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, not to muddy the waters even further, but I do find at this time of year, talking about like, okay, mileage is my main goal, even if that means the volume of my quality is less or even less productive. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word, but you start looking at incline work on the treadmill for these quality sessions, and it allows you to draw out your volume immensely. Like if you hit, let's say a 3-2-1 fartlek, 5 rounds of each, right? That's 30 minutes of work. Let's say you went 5 rounds of a 3-2-1 fartlek. Who cares what the rest is? That's still 30 minutes of quality work. You hit it pretty hard. How you're going to feel the next day if you simply did that at 15%, 3-2-1 uphill fartlek. I find this is a 10 out of 10 case of basis, meaning you're going to feel notably better the day after your incline work than after the flat work. The damage is going to be less, and you can systemically and metabolically work equally as hard in both. In fact, sometimes the incline gets my heart rate jacked even more than flat, but then I can still go out and have my 10 miles the next day and not feel like I hate my life every step because I'm not damaged structurally. Yes. And so this is a great time of year if you're talking about availability, and we can take a step back and we can look at hours and minutes versus miles if you're comfortable with that approach. And because the incline treadmill, of course, is going to take away from mileage with the hills involved, but it is such a good way to stay available. Yes. So something to think about there.
It is. And it's a great, I think, a great segue into the final question, which is, we've talked about this before on here. This is always like that thing I like to say, but if I just did blank for the next 3 months, how big of a monster would I be? And the incline is often that answer for people. If I just did 2 of my runs at 15% incline all winter, all fall, how much stronger of a runner, specifically uphill, would I be? Well, now is the time to start, because your metrics don't matter. If you don't have a race and off season is coming up and you don't have to be as specific, now's the time. Or if I just worked on downhill skill running on technical terrain 3 times a week for 10 straight weeks, how good would I be at my next race where I had to run sketchy downhill terrain? Well, I can't do that during the season. Now you can. Why not? If time on feet's all that matters for you on those days, why not do it? Or all my races next year are in sloppy conditions. What if I just found the worst muddy water? What if I ran in the shallows at the lake, like 10 minutes every single day to finish my run? Or what if I ran barefoot on the soccer field for 10 minutes to strengthen whatever? Like, it doesn't matter how foolish it sounds. What if I just did that? How much stronger would I be? Now's the time to start doing that thing, because it doesn't draw away from any race specific prep work that you should be doing.
Sacrifice a little bit of what you're already good at for a bit of what you're not, right?
Yeah.
Simple as that. I want to pose a question to you because I'm thinking of a few athletes I'm working with in mind who have already committed to spring marathons. Okay. It's October when you're listening to this. It's an April marathon, let's say. They start really popping up. You notice April, May, June. People are already thinking ahead. So point I'm getting at is this. This is where I think the paths could diverge depending on what kind of athlete you are or your natural tendencies. But you talk about working up the long run right now. So if you have a spring marathon on your calendar, should you right now be working yourself up in these long runs when you are 6 months out? Or is this the time to hold back and exercise caution so we aren't burnt or injured come April? Okay, we just had our big races. We took some downtime. We have a 6-month build to our big spring ultra marathon, whatever it is, like really. What do? Do you really try to work up to 20, 22 miles in 3 hours? It's only going to be October, November, December. Or must we not? Is there still a governor to your theory of work on that time on foot? That's a really hard question to answer depending on who you are as an athlete, but it's very much worth the discussion.
It is. My answer is you absolutely can do your 20 to 20 whatever mile long runs, but I would do it on the safest surface. Go dawdle on the trails. Do it at 5% incline.
What does dawdle mean?
Like go out on not technical, but trails that are soft or twisty or whatever, where you're not looking at your watch every mile thinking I have to be running 7-minute pace. Go on a trail that's going to reduce some pounding on your legs, and you can still get 20 every other weekend if you want, if you need to do that. But you don't need to, but you need to stay in touch with it, because the big thing about a marathon build is that if you're not ready for it, you get a stress fracture. That's generally what happens with people, right? They do their marathon build, they build up, they nail their last big long run, and oh shoot, something happened in that. And it's because your long run's getting longer on pavement, and your volume and consistency has risen, and your overall fatigue has risen. So if you don't have to have one of those components building at the same time as the others, you're less likely to get hurt. So you look at what's the most dangerous part of marathon build for me. Is it the overall fatigue? Maybe. It's probably either the volume / frequency or the long run on pavement. So let's get used to one of those things now. And so if that's the long run, I think that's okay to do, because then it's not as stressful for you later on.
So safer terrain, get rid of expectations or pacing or quality within that.
Yeah.
But it's okay to still get time on foot of high duration.
I think so, yes.
And the major reason, if we distill it down, is mostly to set you up so that your body's actually ready for the road work and customized to time, acclimated to time on foot, so you're accessible when the overreaching phase of marathon training happens, let's say.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many times now in the last several months I've used that same phrase, but I just cannot stand changing multiple variables at one time. And the less we can change, the better. And your body's going to react better as well. So if you have to raise volume and you have to raise intensity and you have to raise long run and you have to make sure you're getting your impact on the pavement to be ready for the marathon, I really don't want to have to do all four at the same time. So can we knock two of those out in the off season? If so, then you're just set up to be able to handle everything else better.
What about, and I'm thinking of a couple of people in particular who I'm choosing to hold back right now. So not really necessarily what you're talking about. At the same time, these athletes have gone through many marathon and ultra marathon builds. They've proven mostly healthy, or have largely, and the whole 90% of a coach's job with a high-end athlete is to hold their athletes back until it's time to strike, right? And so to counter what you've said, just for another perspective, if you're somebody who is in your first few years of this, not necessarily confident in your durability, you have an injury history, I could not agree more with what you said. At the same time, I think the more tenured you are, the smaller windows you have to nail it sometime. And typically, if you're tenured, you're a responder. And so then at some points, I'm also like, well, if you've been through the song and dance before, I think there still is a time and place to say, okay, you know, Kirk, I signed up for Grandma's Marathon, by the way. I got a marathon in June.
You and I didn't even talk about that. I had to learn that on social media, Kirk.
We're growing apart. But the point being is, for me, I'm going to hold back on the long runs until probably March. I'm going to do some purposeful work, don't get me wrong. But for me as a responder, and yes, I might play with that overused song and dance you're talking about, even if I go put low grade time on feet right now of 3 hours or 2 hours on the trails, I think I may show up more dull than I care to. So I think there is two sides of the coin there, depending on your tenureship and your experience level, right? Like some people need to build the confidence and resilience to impact now. And low grade time on feet is going to change your DNA and your preparedness for the long stuff coming up. And then on the other side, I think this time is almost a time to hold back until it's time. If you have a tenureship. Do you get what I'm getting at here?
I do. And I think the safest thing any endurance athlete can do in the off season, if you want to work, but you don't want to get too crazy, and you want to go long, but you don't want to go too long, is you just spam your training load with, call it what you want to call it, sweet spot, gray zone, aerobic threshold. Do a ton of 60 to 90 minute workouts. Like, do 3 by 20 minutes at slightly slower than marathon pace.
Love it.
Do 5 by 10 minutes at aerobic threshold. Do 10 miles out, 5 miles back at coming back at marathon pace or slightly slower. The type of work that is good for you and poses no risk, but all it does is just grow your engine bigger and bigger. And so you can live in that hour and a half, hour 40 range all off season, but with just enough purpose that transitioning to anything else just gives you, like, you're just swinging a bigger bat when you get there.
That's beautiful. And that's been my approach personally, and it feels like it's working. So I could not agree with you more. That just, you could, not that, I don't know how we coined this, like the Mark Botras approach, because it's not his approach, but he's like, I'd rather you go out and run 10 miles every day than go run 6 and then one long run of 20, right?
Yeah.
For the tenured athlete, like a Mark Botras, who's been training his whole life, let's call myself that, you that, aside from the recent injury bouts. I do think there's also that place as well, where you're constantly going out for 90 minutes, maybe even 2-3 times a week, but then you're never reaching for the long stuff until it's time.
Yeah.
But we're muddying the waters now, but I just think there's going to be a few people out there listening that's like, that
Yeah.
might be the camp I actually fall in. It could be a 12-mile recovery run on Monday, which seems crazy long. And then you're doing 75 to 90 minutes of something of quality in there on a Wednesday. But then you're just going out for a 90-minute long run, in quotes, which is almost the same duration as what you did on Wednesday, but with less purpose. Like things
Yeah.
like that is what I think you're outlining.
It is. And so we only have about 5 minutes left here, but I want to pivot really, really drastically and say, I know we're not talking about a specific build, but there is the one type of athlete that must have something specific to train for. If they don't have it, they're aimless, they're miserable, they flounder, they're lost. So if you are that athlete and you don't want to train specifically for your season, then you find something that's almost antagonistic to your season, something that is not what you're about to race for, and build a training block just for that thing within the confines of, when in doubt on certain things, I choose the one that'll help my other race more. Like if I could do low volume or high volume, but my real race is ultra, you choose high volume. If it could be flat or uphill for this workout, if at the end of the year I'm doing UTMB, you choose the uphill version. But pick a duathlon, train for a triathlon, train for a 5K, train for a 1 mile race, train for an adventure race. Find something that's not your thing and just train for that under the bias of your sport. And that gets you through an off season.
That's great.
So train
advice.
for a high rocks.
That's great advice. There's a whole contingency of, like, let's say 2 camps, road warriors and trail warriors, whether it's OCR or trail, and whether it's road or sterile environment like high rocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they very infrequently intermix with consistency. It's like I majorly trail race or OCR, I majorly road race, or let's say sterile environment hybrid race, but I rarely do both with consistency, meaning 50% is the roads and 50% is the trails. We always lean one side or the other. And I think simply the advice I'd been giving recently to athletes who've been in the OCR and trail scene is like, you know what? We're going to build for next year. And in the process, you got to pick out 3 road races, and I don't even care what they are.
Yep.
And we're going to hit them. We're going to work that other end of your spear, or vice versa. We've been hitting the roads. I want you to do something like a high rocks is a great example, or a trail race with vert that makes you uncomfortable. That's no way in your wheelhouse. I think it's perfect. In fact, I think that's what a lot of people should do this time of year. It's just, the other side of the coin. A question about the hybrid thing then, though. Doesn't matter. You're a trail athlete. You're a road athlete. Like, how would you work that and still feel like you're not losing touch with, like, your ability to run a marathon in the spring? Like, what's your just big picture overview of what that would look like?
I think you said, what is my minimum effective dose of running? Like I need to run 60 miles per week no matter what. Great. That's the first thing we program. And now how much hybrid can we fit in there without impacting that? And that's I think as simple as you need to get. You don't have to do all the strength work that a hybrid workout would require. You don't have to do all the sled work. You just have to do enough that you survive it. And it doesn't even matter if you do the race. You just train for it. Now, doing the race, I think, is helpful because those kind of things expose weaknesses. But just having a new twist on your training, you do one workout and you realize my lower back is just pathetic. So even though I don't want to train for this race, the thing I'll take away is I've got to start doing some bent over rows or some good mornings or whatever it is, even just Superman core work. It's like a taste of this highlights how awful some body part of yours is that can't be not affecting you in running or in life. So let's just work on that a little.
Yeah, I like that. I also think if we want to stay within our scope, as simple as it is, I love the trails. I hate the roads. Great. I've been an ultra athlete, or I've been doing 25K and above. Like, let's go find the 6-mile trail series and go race the shorter end. Or I've been racing short 5Ks on the road looking for speed. Why don't I dip into a half as part of my build? I'm not tapering necessarily or trying to peak. It's just another, let's use it as a quality day on steroids amidst our build for next year. So you could stay within your scope and just pick the opposite of your tendencies. And even though it may not even excite you, it probably is going to move your fitness needle the right way if it's the opposite of what you're typically training for. So, like, you can still stay within your scope too.
It's going to give you a reason to go to the weight room or to hit the track or to go on the trail. The things that you're not doing because you're like, I'll get to it and I don't. It gives you a reason to actually do those things. And that's what an off season's for.
I think we've begun clouding the waters a little bit. Okay. And I am going to shamelessly plug for us at this point. Most people look at this time of year and it's hard. You do need to know your tendencies as an athlete when you decide what you're going to do and what makes the most sense for you for long-term progression. Now is actually probably the best time of year to talk to a coach or a consult or look at starting a relationship with somebody en route till your big things that happen next year. Because as we're talking through this, I'm realizing, well, yes, we want to give you a template for how to proceed, but there's so many nuances within that template based on your history and what's coming up in the future. So if you've considered looking at a coach, it doesn't have to be us. I'm not saying it has to be us, but what I'm saying is like, sometimes this is actually, it would seem like the worst time of year to get some help and just get second eyes on it and how we build. But I think it's actually the best time of year to start with somebody if you're looking for help, because it can get a little confusing. But I think the big picture is, as we put a bow tie on this, is having a plan, keeping structure, not letting go of quality whatsoever, and touching systems. But again, we're never swinging so hard that we need 5 days recovery from the session because we want to stay available right now.
Right.
And so we can keep doing it week in and week out and just building and layering without setting ourselves back. So I think that would be like summation of what we've talked about. How would you summarize it?
I think that's exactly it. You identify the skills you're going to need and the things you don't want to do too much of. And that right there drives it. What can I not lose touch in? And what have I let slide that I need to bring back up? And finally, where am I bad right now? Where do I want to not be bad at next year? And those 3 questions, I think, just drive your entire offseason. But what you can't do is burn out on anything.
Yep.
You can't eat pizza every single day and then now you're sick of pizza. And like, it's only January. Like, we need to still have that taste for it come August. Like, don't get too in on anything yet.
Yeah, I think the word pizza just triggered the word craving. Like, you want to crave your training still right now. You want to crave it constantly. You don't want to get to the point where you're dreading it necessarily. You want to crave work, not dread it, and trying to find that balance. And it can be tricky, but that's how I would describe it. Anything else you want to wrap up with? I will tell everybody, guys, we have a mega Q&A coming at you at the end of this week. And we're going to try to check as many of these questions off that you have. We've gotten a number more Q&As. We talked about it last week when we did a brief Q&A, but we're going to hopefully do a mega long run Q&A for you, 10 this week.
I have an idea for it, Kirk.
Okay.
And I'm not sharing it right now, but how we did the threshold Q&A session where we had 3 minutes on, a version of that, a new workout style that I want to hit for this one.
Love it. Let's do it, because I think that's the only way we're going to get through these things.
Yeah. And this is our fault. Whenever we talk about Q&As or ask questions of, do you want it, do you not? Or people seem to be reminded that they can send questions in.
Yeah.
And then they come pouring in. So we're like, we did it. We're clearing it out. And then we have twice as many as we had prior to making that announcement. So we created this vacuum suck of questions, but they are building up.
You know what? We talked about this before we hit record, and then we're ending this. Oftentimes, so we get great questions from you guys. Like, it's like our questions get like more and more nuanced and detail oriented and situation specific. I will say, if you send us a question that is 2 or 3 paragraphs long and it's detailed nuance to your situation, that is consult call type stuff, or it is Q&A type stuff. But it's tough to respond to those sort of inquiries via message. Just trying to be respectful of our own time. So if you have a novel that you end up sending that is very specific to you, we can save that for a Q&A because somebody can probably learn from your situation. But to take back the time to write a detailed response, that's a coaching consult or a coaching type question versus like a Q&A type question or a message type question. So we've been getting a few of those lately, and we're for hire. Let's just leave it at that. Shameless plug. Again, you agree with that?
Yeah. A generic example would be, hey, I just finished a 9-week blank. My next thing is blank. What kind of workouts and progression would you recommend doing? And what strength work should I go along with this?
We get
That's asking us to coach you.
we get those questions like, you know who you are, but we've gotten a number of those lately.
Yeah.
So those are tough for us. Like we're pretty busy people, and so we want to help, but we also can't spend 15 minutes responding to a customized message. So anyways, so we'll touch on those in Q&As. The point I'm getting at is we'll touch on your situation and give you a quick answer that would take way too long to type up, and we'll do it with our words. But if you're really looking for nuanced help, then, slide into our inbox and ask us to have a real chat. That's all I got. That's my little PSA for 10, this thing about Q&A questions.
Perfect. Generally, if we can't answer you in like 30 to 60 seconds or less on our phones, it's got to be a Q&A response.
Yep.
Or otherwise that's a coaching call. So just
But I
keep
love
that
the
in mind for framing it.
Thank you for listening. And I love that, like the dissection of people's situations, freaking awesome. So that's great. So we want those. It's just, they have to be a Q&A style something, or a consult call in the future. But on that, hopefully people learned something today.
Had to have, right? One thing. We said enough thing. There's got to be one thing that sticks.
I hope so. All right, guys. We'll see you later this week.
See ya.